album with our land acknowledgement. On March 30th, 2022, we acknowledge that this sacred land in which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. Any amendments to the agenda? I'll ask for a motion for approval of the agenda. Moved by Lindsay, seconded by Courtney. All in favor? Thank you. Adoption of minutes. I know they went out. Everyone had a chance to review them. If so, can you mind making a motion to adopt the minutes? Moved by Courtney, seconded by Lindsay. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I'll ask for disclosure of monetary interest. Seeing none, we'll move ahead. We have no delegations today. And a few priority items to discuss. Welcome, Carl. We'll start with you. Potential housing opportunities on town-owned lands.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everyone. So at the previous meeting of the Housing Advisory Committee, the committee had asked staff to look into municipal-owned lands and see if there's any opportunities available potentially to sell or develop these town-owned lands for housing. So staff used their GIS tool to identify lands that had zoning or looked like they could be fairly easily zoned to accommodate residential development. And we also screened lands that didn't have any access to services, didn't have appropriate lot size or frontage or any of the sort, or weren't reasonably viable properties. So we had a short list of a handful of properties that were reviewed by the management team, just looking at just to screen out any lands that may have other intended purposes or expected uses. Unfortunately, the list of properties that are owned by the town that appear to be suitable or can be made suitable for development easily is very short. I will open, if I may, I'll screen share what I have here.
Please do.
Just bear with me a moment here. So can everyone see the property on Merrick Street?
Yes.
So that's one lot. It's very narrow. It does have an area. It has a lot area that's potentially usable for a home. It would have to be, obviously it would be constrained in terms of size and given its narrow frontage. We're not quite sure why that lot exists as it is right now, but it does appear to be owned by the town. It doesn't appear to have any connection with be part of a road allowance or anything. It is serviced by water or sewer. That being said, it would likely require variances for construction, but it is in a residential neighborhood, so that could there may be potential there. The other property that we were able to screen in is a property on Rideau Avenue North. So it's a large enough lot. It's zoned and designated for residential. It doesn't have services along Rideau Avenue North, but that white piece just to the north of it is a non-open municipal road allowance. And from our conversations with the Public Works Department, it doesn't appear that there's likely going to be any municipal need for that road allowance in the near future. So potentially, if that lot were to be consolidated with the unopened road allowance and services provided from Governor Street on the other side, then there's a bit more potential there, I think, that we'd see for potential development there. It is adjacent to one constraint is it is adjacent to the former 360 security building that has industrial zoning and is now for sale. But with some creativity and ultimately some costs in terms of extending services along the road allowance, there may be potential for development there. The other municipal owned properties that are that we looked at that met our basic size criteria are typically either used or as open space or parkland and not easily developable. So unfortunately, as you could see there, the list is disappointingly short. But broadly speaking, it seems if the municipality is going to be in the real estate involved in real estate and development, it appears likely that it would be most effectively done on a broader scale through targeted investments and land sales. And that's of course a question for another day and a much broader conversation. But I'll welcome any questions or discussion on this unfortunately very short list.
Thanks, Carl. So I'll open up to questions and please keep the questions related to these two potential locations at this stage. Not seeing any. Carl, I guess with the location on Rideau Avenue by Stephen Street, if the road allowance was utilized to expand this lot, would it be suitable? Is it large enough suitable for a multi-residential development, or is, what type of frontage and area would we have here?
So looking at it right now, the lot has it looks like it's probably close as it stands right now. It looks like it's probably close to 1/5 of an acre in size. It is pretty large, and it would certainly be made a lot larger with that with the road allowance, but with the addition of the road allowance. But broadly speaking, with that sort of size, I think and assuming the services can be extended, that's a multi-residential development would probably be necessary there to make it economical to develop it for residential purposes. And it looks like there should be, again, we haven't done a detailed assessment of the land and its suitability, but broadly speaking, it looks like a small multi-residential development probably can be designed to fit on that property.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay?
Yeah, Carl, just to confirm, so adjacent to the blacked out area, that the road allowance right now, the comments were that the town would be open to allowing the property to extend its ownership into that whiteout area. And so it would be access but is that what your comment was, that the town would be willing to provide that road access as part of the property parcel and merge those two?
Well, that's from my discussions with the Public Works Department, that the sense I have is that we don't expect that we're going to need that for operational purposes. Certainly council would have to ultimately make the decision on whether to close or convey the road allowance. But it seems on first glance that it could be an opportunity. It would create a very unusual shaped lot if that lot were to be merged with its neighbor, but that could be the way that the services would be able to be extended in there, and probably maybe more economical than extending services at developers' cost up Rideau Avenue North.
Yeah, because I'm looking at that going, even if like you want it to be conservative, like maybe a developer would put the parking and storage for garbage and things like that on that area, not necessarily affix a structure to it. But I mean, it's over, just the one parcel, it looks like it's over 900 square meters, which is like a very large amount of density. It doesn't really like meet a lot of the setbacks requirements probably, but it would be a very large parcel. Like I based off the stuff I've seen, I see a lot of units being able to go on that piece of property.
Certainly the addition of the road allowance, Lindsay, I think that would, if that were to be added to the property, that would give definitely a decent amount of wiggle room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if you
Well,
here, the houses on Stephen are fronting on Stephen. So it's, I mean, the space that's there now, I haven't been there for a number of years, but I think it's simply just overgrown on open road allowance, right, Carl? Because I don't like, there's nothing, no impediments in that area anyway.
Yeah, yes, that would be from the aerial photo. It looks like it is just forested land that isn't used for any other particular purpose.
Okay.
Hmm.
Any other comments here or questions? So what, if we're looking for an action from this, considering this really is, this one at least provides some potential, Carl, what would be the path forward to essentially, I guess, close up that unopened road allowance and connect at least the adjacent portion to that lot?
So normally with a proposal to close the unopened road allowance is applicant or property owner driven. We get a proposal from somebody who wants to use the space or occupy the space. They send us a proposal, usually with a financial figure and a concept plan, and that gets presented to council in camera. So in my experience, we have not yet had a municipally initiated request for this, and certainly if that's something that the committee would like to explore. Actually, I'll turn this over to Carrie if she wanted to comment on the process that we would likely be looking at in the event that this committee would like to pursue exploring this option or potentially closing that road allowance.
Oh, Carrie, you're muted. Oh, Carrie, you're on mute.
Sorry, didn't know how to unmute myself when I'm all on one side. So we would follow our normal land sale process, Sean, that we're currently going under for the Robinson Avenue property. I don't believe that, as this is an open road allowance, I don't think we would require an appraisal. Don't quote me on that, but historically precedent has been set where we do get an appraisal to find out what the value of the unopened road allowance is. So we would have to follow the same process as we normally do, where, you know, there'd be an application or a proposal brought forward. Council would then have to look at that, and then we'd go through, if council's receptive to it, we would have to look at doing a notice to declare the land surplus, an appraisal, as well as notice to the public of a pending sale of the property. So it would follow kind of the same course that we do with a normal land sale process. I guess, as Carl has stated, the starting point would be some type of proposal or some sort of, we don't have an application, but something brought forward of interest for council to kind of debate at this point.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, I was just curious where in Smith Falls this is.
It's in the northeast end. So Rideau Avenue, which is along the short frontage of this property. The other side of it is Montague Township. So it's right on the town border with Montague Township.
Okay, sort of within walking distance of services, shops and shopping and food and things, or?
It would be a little bit more removed. It wouldn't be too far from the corner of Cornelia and Union, where there's some commercial enterprises along there. It's a fair stretch from downtown, but there's also a foot subway, which would be west, pretty much due west of this location, to go underneath the the rail yards, to come up on Victoria Avenue on the other side, which would be a shortcut to downtown, but it is certainly further away than most.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So actually, before I make a suggestion for this, Carl, for the Merrick Street location, based on the size, would pretty much be confined to a single family home, or could there be anything larger developed on that property?
It seems, I think in taking into account that we'd like to provide at least one parking space, I think there is, I'm not sure I could see anything larger than a narrow, fairly small single family home on that property and still fit in with the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay?
Just on that lot on Merrick, Carl, would the town be interested, or would they ever be open to an application for a single family home that also proposes building a coach house too behind it? And how do you view the addition of a coach house, for example, with respects to parking?
So we do have new zoning policy in place that through you, Mr. Chair, we have new zoning policy in place that allows coach houses as additional residential units. They do have to meet certain zoning requirements, such as setbacks from neighbors and size. So on a broader scale, we would allow a coach house right now on most single family residential neighborhoods in the town. On that property, it would be a little bit more challenging based on its size. I think we'd need to get some more firm lot dimensions and look at what sort of building envelope we'd be looking at. I think it would be very tight on a property as small as that. But broadly speaking, the coach houses are permitted more widely in the town now based on the new zoning policy that was adopted this past December. It would be harder on that lot, I would think, though.
Any other questions here? Yes, Lorraine?
Yeah, my question, Sean, is could we sell this with a proviso of the type of building we want on there, that we want it to be affordable? Can we do that?
So what my thought is, the motion I was going to propose with regards to the Rideau Avenue location, is that this be forwarded, that staff prepare a report on the potential, I guess, the potential annexation of the road allowance to this lot, the closure of the road allowance, and to consider the future use of this property for housing, specifically to the issuance of a RFP for the development of this property, with provisions for affordable housing. Yeah, so I think overall, I mean, we have no use for the lot. It's been sitting there vacant. In my mind, it'd be nice to have it expanded, and then at least I'd be willing to give it to a developer if there was going to be a commitment to longstanding affordable housing units on that site. So, Carrie, essentially that's the action I'd like to see come out of this. I guess if you can capture that in some form of a motion. And Lindsay, while Carrie's doing that, you have a comment or question?
Just a comment that's coming to mind, which is on a property like this, would you be able to request an RFP for a developer to build the property, or then like Lanark County Housing to own, like just as or CareBridge or a provider of some kind, so we know what's going towards an ownership that would gear all the units towards affordability? Is there a way to make a provision of that kind?
I guess it depends how the RFP would be worded. Yeah, I mean, a not-for-profit obviously could apply for it, or if a for-profit developer want to apply through the RFP, they would have to make the commitment to, let's say, 20 years of making sure that the units are provided on an affordable basis based on whatever definition we'd want to use. Yeah, it's also possibly the county may be interested in participating, but that'd be a whole other conversation. But I think I guess a key thing would be today we advance this to council and staff prepare a report for discussion with the intent of turning this into affordable house through an RFP. But in the meantime, there's a process we would need to do to make this one lot. Carrie?
I was just going to suggest, Mayor Panko, if we can, I have a proposed motion drafted. Just wondering if we can bring forward this item to our next meeting. Carl and I would just like to have a more detailed discussion about some of the planning implications as well as the land sale implications before we bring forward a report to council about putting this motion forward. It just might give us a little more information before we bring up a motion to council. If you concur, Carl and I can come back to our next meeting with a little more information on the planning as well as the road closure requirements.
Yes.
And then at that point, maybe the committee can have a vote on the proposed motion.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And then for Merrick Street, again, it's municipally owned property that may not be suitable for anything larger than a single family home, but it's still an asset of the town. And it's not being utilized for housing today. So I guess on the same vein, I guess, Carrie and Carl, if we want to bring that back as well, our next meeting, I mean, obviously we could sell it and sell it for whatever the market will bear. And that money would go into our land reserve, which could be used to help acquire future lands, maybe for affordable housing. But today it serves no purpose other than I think it's sort of part of someone's lawn. So I guess basically, yeah, let's prepare for some action on that as well. And it's never going to be a park. We might as well try to extract some value out of it. We have consensus and agreement, Lindsay?
Yeah, I think Jeff's got his hand up too. I just was thinking for the Merrick property, again, it's just coming to mind as, could a RFP be requested, or I don't know, could the lot, given how small it is, and it's not a big lot to really accommodate much, would it be something to consider for rooming type housing units? So where, we provide, 4 to 6 rooms within a one dwelling. I'm looking at the map right now of Merrick Street, and I see so much is in with walking distance that I don't think that there, people who would maybe occupy it could walk to quite a bit of things and may not have a vehicle. I see a rooming house situation happening there, and possibly emergency housing of some kind. Just throwing it out there.
So I guess maybe Carl, obviously paying attention and to bring this back, those are things he can certainly look at if it would be suitable. The other thing I do know, I've been contacted in years past by Habitat for Humanity, who have long had an interest in doing a build in town, but they always look for the donation of land to do so. So again, maybe another possibility there as well. Jeff, and then Carl.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Just a couple of things. One, I'm really happy that you're doing this and pushing these lands out there. I'd like to see other towns do the same thing. It's really nice to know what you've got and how it can be used for affordable housing. In terms of an RFP, I think Cambridge would be interested in the one that would include the road allowance. Probably, I would have to talk to my boss. The one thing I want people to understand as that process is it can, as we've found with Chamber Street, it can take a long time to develop nonprofit housing. So if you're wanting a real quick return in getting people into homes, it could be difficult for nonprofits to turn it over quickly. The beauty of nonprofits, however, is once they're built, they remain affordable for their lifetime. So I would love if nonprofits had a chance at this, and as long as people realize it's an arduous task to get all of the I's dotted and T's crossed to get there. But no, thank you. And your idea around Habitat for Humanity, I think that's probably a really good thing. Lindsay, you're talking about emergency housing. It's really difficult for anyone to build something that can be there in case it's needed. We need to build them and put people in them. It's hard to have something, and we know often people get in that situation where they need something today and there isn't any vacancy, but it's really expensive to have it ready for that case. So just saying.
Thanks, Jeff. Carl?
Yes, I think just to follow up on Lindsay's comment, I think the next, when this comes back to Housing Committee, I think the form of the staff report will be a bit of an issues and options piece for each of those properties, sort of summarizing what we think is feasible, and then some of the development related issues I think that we'd have to sort of work through before development can proceed. But I certainly looking at sort of assessing the viability and considerations of different forms of housing on each of those lots.
Sounds good. Anything further on this before we move on? Okay. Thanks, Carl. Carrie, our land sale bylaw.
Yeah, this isn't a huge item, Mayor Panko. I just wanted to reiterate that Carl did share with me, I wasn't at the meeting where HAC did pass a motion about our land sale bylaw, specifically about dedicating revenue to prioritize the purchasing of land that can be used for affordable housing. So I just, as a follow-up, I did raise this with our treasurer just to find out, because we do have policies about reserves. So we don't have a specific policy regarding this, but so the policy that we do have about our reserves. So a reserve like this would be a non-interest bearing reserve. Having said that, we do have a land service reserve, and it would be at the discretion of council how the funds would be used. So if that would be council's intent, or if that was brought forward to council, council does have that ability to have funds go towards whatever purpose they deem appropriate with this type of reserve. So I just wanted to bring that council, or bring HAC up to speed on where that is, in case there was any questions about how we could use that through our reserve policy.
Thank you. Comments or questions? No. So now, Carrie, I suppose there would be an opportunity for council to amend the bylaw to impose, I guess, a provision that proceeds from land sales would be dedicated to affordable housing.
Mm-hmm. So the next step would be then to bring forward, because there's a couple of little minor changes we've made to the land sale bylaw regarding housing, regarding affordable housing. The first one was giving council more discretion about accepting when they're accepting or rejecting a proposal, that they give consideration to affordable housing. That was one of the other changes we've made to it. So if a full report would be brought forward to council with those two items to fulfill the recommendation from the task force about amending this policy. And one would be about the money being put into reserve for affordable housing, and the one would be giving council that latitude to accept or reject proposals. So those are the two main drivers of bringing forward a refreshed bylaw. Of course, I'll take the opportunity when we have it to run it through legal as well, to make sure we've checked all the boxes from a legal standpoint. But regarding this task force recommendation about affordable housing, those would be the 2 points that we would amend to accommodate that provision.
Thank you. Again, any questions or comments here, or is it an action that we believe we'd like council to take? I see Lorraine nodding yes.
Okay.
Ellie nodding yes. Jeff nodding yes. Courtney, okay, everybody's nodding now. Okay.
Okay.
Good enough. And Carrie, I guess we're keeping this at a fairly high level at this stage, but can you just speak to the investing process for Robinson? And I guess, I mean, council will have to make a decision what it does with that in the future, but you at least explain what we've done so far.
Sure. So this was an interesting property. It's at the top end of Robinson Avenue, if everybody's familiar with that location. So it went to tax sale 3 years ago. Don't quote me on the dates, please. And then at that point, it was a multi-residential unit. There was a fire at that property. So there was a fire at the property, but at the same time, the tax sale was still going through the process. However, at that time, I think the owner came forward and made a payment, which ceased the tax sale. However, then it did go into tax sale yet again after the fire. At that point, we went to MPAC to have the assessment changed because it went from a multi-residential to a vacant piece of land. So MPAC did change the assessment of that property. So the tax sale did go through. However, there was no successful bids. No, my apologies. There was no successful bids the first tax sale. So we decided to try tax sale again. So tax sale happens, it used to be every 3 years if an owner defaults with their property taxes. It has now been reduced to 2 years. So there was no bids the first time submitted. That's when council decided to look at having the assessment reduced to see if that garnered any interest. It was unsuccessful the second time. At that time, council made the decision to vest the property, which means that the town took over the property. We now own that piece of property. So we have gone through the tax sale process ourselves, the same process that we would make anybody go through. So we have brought forward a report to council. Council has deemed the property to be surplus to our needs, and an ad is going out in next week's paper. Notice of intent that it is being proposed for sale, and any interested party can come forward to the clerk if they have an interest in the property. So given that after that ad goes out, there's a 20-day window, I believe, for any concerns to be brought forward. And at that point, council has the discretion then to sell the property as they deem appropriate. So at some point, it'll go from ownership from the town to private ownership. I think the hope is and Mayor Panko, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the hope is to have more housing in place with that piece of property.
Yeah, so what I'll say, there's been further discussions that have been held in camera that I'm not at liberty to discuss, other than we are following the process we need to follow to ensure the property is vested to create future opportunities for housing in our community. So there'll be more on that in the not so distant future. Okay. Moving on, the last item on the agenda is tenant rights and responsibilities. And I added this largely because some of you may have seen, I posted, I think you can read that. That's why I go backwards. Anyway, it is can my landlord evict me for rent evictions and repairs? So again, going back, we've had numerous people of our community, members of our community, who have faced eviction, been evicted, or are facing eviction right now under a rent eviction, and I think it's N14 and 13 form. And in many cases, not all cases, but many cases, it seems we have a landlord who is simply trying to evict people in order to be able to re-rent the unit for a higher price. And in one I saw less than 2 weeks ago, I was in some of the units. They were all fully renovated about 5 years ago. Don't look like they need any major renovations, and certainly not such that it would require people to move out to accommodate the renovations. Anyway, so long and short of it, that document was produced by the legal clinic in Perth, and I thought important to try and help get that out. So I simply posted it on my mayor Facebook page. I think it was last Thursday, and the traffic it generated was astonishing. It was shared 114 times, and it had a reach of 13,658 people. So what that tells me is it's not as much that it's an issue far beyond our borders, and it was shared by people within our borders, and it was shared across the province. So what it tells me is people are probably seeking, even on a method like Facebook, information on evictions or renovictions or renovations, eviction because of renovation. So it's a very widespread program. And as much as we held a great tenant rights workshop, the word is still not getting to all the people that need to get the message. And as I think I mentioned many times, I believe the most affordable home someone can have is the one they're in right now. And we know that if they are evicted, they're facing significant increases in their rent, in an environment where costs are rising rapidly, especially the grocery bill. People's ability to make ends meet is going to be even more difficult if they're evicted. So I wanted to, I guess, have a discussion here. What else should we be doing to try and ensure that every tenant in our community understands the rights and the responsibilities as well? Of course, anytime we post something, we always get some feedback that there are some bad tenants out there, as well as maybe some bad landlords. But it's important that everyone understand the rights and the responsibilities, and try to ensure that if they want to stay housed where they are, they have that opportunity. And even though I sort of perceive that we're doing a good job getting the message out, I think we need to do more. And I wanted to see what this group thought of how do we do that? How do we ensure that people get the information that they need to hear? Jeff?
I had someone come to my office today who was going to be evicted, or not today, a couple of days ago, who was going to be evicted. And we talked about what the situation was with the landlord, and there was some definite overstepping by the landlord. And I quickly got them in touch with the legal clinic. And this is a person who has post-traumatic stress disorder and was really, had signed an N11 and was quite concerned that he had done that. And I got him in touch with the legal clinic, and that was such a stress reliever for him. They're not sure what they can do, but it's the right support that the gentleman needed. And he was grateful that I did that, because he didn't know where to turn. So as much as we can do stuff, I think that they are our greatest allies and our greatest advocates. If we can always be steering people there, I know that they probably have limited resources, it can only handle so much. They're the ones that can be really effective. I had another situation not that long ago with a senior couple, and it was the same kind of situation where it was they'd been long-term tenants. So I don't doubt that it was a case of time to get them out and get more rent. So I think the more that we can really support the work of the legal clinic, the better. And if there's a mechanism in Smith Falls that can go out, like you said, you had 13,000 chairs, it would be great to direct people to the proper resources, because I don't think we're that, but we can be help steer people where they need to go.
Thank you. And I think one of the conclusions I reached out of this is that it was simple. I mean, the tenant workshop video is great, and we should continue to share that.
Yeah.
But it's but an hour long, and if maybe it's a matter of simplifying our messaging, and again, steering people to the resources like the legal clinic. Lorraine?
Yeah, well, you answered my question, I guess. That's why I put my hand down. But, you know, when we did those workshops, I thought they were so useful, and I regretted, I didn't realize that we had taped them and that we do have them available virtually. But I mean, I think that's important too, because people have asked me, you know, how do I find out about it? And I didn't realize we had taped those, or we had, oh, that's good to know. And so who would I send that to? Where do they watch that, Sean?
Well, I guess, like, Carrie, you recirculate the video.
Yeah, it's on our
I-
Facebook page too.
Yeah, and I posted it on mine again back last October, I guess it was.
Oh, okay. That's
But
all we
again,
know.
Things get buried quickly, and people, span of attention tends to be fairly, and people may not watch a full 1 hour video, but they may watch a short clip. So maybe, Lindsay, then back to Jeff.
I was just thinking, like, sometimes in like long videos, I mean, I've even had to watch, there'll be a section where it's like at minute 2, at minute 5, at minute 10, at minute 20. So maybe if we can just have that, you know, learn what to do when your landlord knocks on your door. Like, that's probably minute 2, like, steps don't follow. Like, so maybe just highlight where they can zoom to, because yes, like, people don't want to sit for an hour, especially if they're distressed at the point of being evicted. They kind of want to know exactly where to look for in the video. Yeah.
Great point. Or even editing, you know, everybody's got editing skills to cut out clips that might be 30 seconds to a minute or two that would be relevant to certain points and promoting that particular point of the video. Jeff?
I would not be able to provide any electronic services. I'm horrible at all that stuff.
Well, count me in that category too. Jeff?
That's exactly what I was going to suggest, is take that hour of video and see how many different lessons there are that are like 3 minutes long or less, and package them for social media with a good heading so that people know that are you facing this with your tenancy, and it's specific to that one problem, and then they'll go flying all over the place, and it's not having to kind of find a place in the hour-long video. People won't do that. But so if we had someone that could edit and create that content, that would be really fantastic and very useful, I think.
Carrie, do we know of a resource that could help us with that?
I was just thinking, I'd have to watch it again, because I know that Linda did follow a bit of a PowerPoint presentation. So we can, there is the people who do our live stream may be able to offer that. I'd have to speak with them. I would just have to rewatch it to see, because I wouldn't want anybody to take anything that was said out of context. If we do something like that, I'd obviously want to work with Linda, because I wouldn't want her message to get, you know, because she was very, very clear and concise with her messaging, and it had a corresponding PowerPoint presentation. I'd have to watch it again, but I can do that and talk to our live stream provider to see if they can offer something. And obviously, if we do edit it, I think it would be. I think we should reach out to Linda to get her final approval as well on it.
Super.
I just don't want anybody to misinterpret a message she was trying to send, because she did it so well during that presentation.
Yeah. Or I wonder if simply a matter of if Linda had the time to do short clips. Basically taking that message and split it up herself, but making sure that the content in that short message is complete within itself. Lorraine?
Yeah, what I was going to suggest is, and the reason I know this works is people have commented to me on how they look for Kathy Botham's post, his hometown news, and those little snapshot quick interviews that she does. She has a real knack to be able to pull out what people need to listen and hear, and they're not very long, and they continually run and rerun on Facebook. Maybe that's the sort of thing we need to do, just put it out there for people to listen to. And the nice thing about hometown news is you can go back and watch them over and over again if you've missed it. Just an idea.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts? Jeff?
We should maybe check with the county and see if there's a way they would want to partner as well. And just so that in case they're, who knows what they might be planning, they might have something similar in mind or not, but it wouldn't hurt to just connect with Shauna before we go forward.
Well, of course, it's completely relevant across the whole county. So, well, across the whole province for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. So, Carrie, maybe for an action, could you connect with Linda?
Yep.
And also maybe with Sean at the county, and come back with maybe what will be the best method for us to get the most effective messaging out in the most effective manner as again, maybe as frequently as possible.
Will do. Yep. No problem.
Yeah. Courtney. Yeah, to the point, Corey, maybe if some part of this group has time to watch a video, or Carrie, you're going to anyway, I guess. Maybe mark down the various times in the video where, to Lindsay's point, if you want to learn about potential rent evictions, you want to learn about your units being sold, your homes being sold, and like the various reasons why people may be evicted. And give people a chance to focus on that point while you're going through it, and then repost the video that way. Yeah.
I was going to, I'll follow up with, like I said, our live stream group to see and see if I can do something. I forget who mentioned it about having like timestamps on it so that underneath the video that somebody, and maybe that's the way we do it without kind of messing with Linda's content or messaging. So let me talk to them first, and I'll come back to this group with some options, and we can go from there.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's it for the formal part of our agenda. I guess a roundtable open things up for any further comments or questions or suggestions? No. Well, that's good. We were able to get it in under the hour, respecting everybody's time. And everyone's still quiet at your house, Allie? Oh, okay. Now you get a chance. Maybe you get a moment for yourself then.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody, and we'll be in touch to schedule our next meeting once Carol and Carrie had a chance to delve into some of these topics. Motion for adjournment. Moved by Jeff, seconded by Courtney. All in favor? Thanks everybody. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Take care.